When We Were Young, 2024, all album plays, the Emo Social Club reviewing 57 records that are being played in full live at the festival by the bands that we've come to know and love, playing these records that we grew up with, that we know and love, and, I know and I love. And today we are talking about Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones. Oh. One that I had never listened to before sitting here and reviewing it. And Newfound Glory, a band that's been around since the 90s. They've been a band for a long time. But this record I never got to it. But before we talk about what we think about this record, Lizzie, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the background of this record?
This was released June 11th, 2002. So another really early onset record here.
Early onset.
A very top peak pop punk bubble. All right. This was done as a duo release between MCA and Drive Thru Records. The main singles off of here, unlike a lot of other ones that we see have anywhere for 3 to 5 singles, these were only 2, My Friends Over You and Head On Collision. Mm-hmm. So they were produced by Neil Avron, who also produced first Fall Out Boy album, Take This to Your Grave, and also their recent album, So Much for Stardust. So they were also in American Pie too.
Yes, they were. All of these records from this early 2000s, all of them were in teen movies.
That's
this is just
so
going to be a
crazy.
recurring thing with all these pop punk records, is all of them were in teen films.
I mean, I know that Fall Out Boy, right now they're not doing an album play, if they will even be doing one, but I know them, they're in the great movie that is Sex Drive.
You are finding any opportunity to talk about Fall Out Boy.
I am. This is also where we start to see a little bit of the jump in pop punk into the mainstream, because later on that year they were on TRL performing. So this album charted number 4 on Billboard Top 200 when it came out and was certified platinum in 2020. So it took a little bit, but it got there. All Press ranked My Friends Over You at number 32 for their top 2000s tracks that you have to listen to. And there's also a track on this album called The Story So Far, which we know as a band, and they obviously took their name from that.
Well, let's get into what we think about this record. But before we do, we are going through all of these. We're going to talk about every single one, and you know that your favorite is coming up, or maybe it already happened. But the only way that you'll know when that comes out is to subscribe at the link below. It's the subscription button. You want to hit that subscribe, and it will subscribe you to the channel. So make sure to hit that and follow us so that you know when we're going to talk about your favorite record from when we were young. And you don't want to miss it.
It'll be a fun time.
Well, let me tell you what I thought about Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones. This record feels very much like of the time. It feels very much of that pop punk vibe. I was never super into this style of pop punk. So when Newfound Glory came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of the sound. I had a real issue with Jordan Pundick's singing because it is very nasally. It's very whiny. And that was my first hit from, My Friends Over You. Hearing that single back in the day is this is so whiny pop punk. And it just did not register with me. Obviously, over the years, I've grown a little bit more fond of this style of music. I've opened my mind up to a lot more of it. So Newfound Glory is one of those bands that I've listened to a little bit more over time. I've never listened to this full record. Actually, that might not be true. I might have listened to this full record and I've just kind of blocked it out, because I think that it's one of those things where you're I want to like these bands and I want to know where all of these other bands that I listen to now came from. But I do find this record just to be a little bit still that lame, boring pop punk sort of sound. I also felt there were way too many songs on this record. You do not need this many songs, my friends.
For the sound of what it is.
Yeah, you got your message across without having to do this many songs. It's not my favorite. I think there's some good stuff on it. I don't think it's a bad record by any means, but I wouldn't say this is my style. This is something that I generally go for and want to listen to. My top 3 tracks off of this record, I did think the opener, Understatement, is really good.
Okay, we agree, yeah.
I did like that song.
I do really like a strong, usually if you have a band where you're not too certain about it, you can kind of have a better of a tell if you're going to at least have an okay-ish time if the opening track smacks.
They understood you got to have a smacker opening track, and it may or may not be a single, but you got to have a smacker.
Yeah.
A real smacker off the top, they call it. You go into the studio and you say, let me get one of those smackers off the top. On the floor. I try not to pick the 2 singles for my favorite tracks. It's Been a Summer. I also really liked. I thought that was at least interesting, lyrically and vocally. I enjoyed that song, and I thought, oh, this is a little bit different than kind of what I expected out of Newfound Glory on this record, and I dig it. Forget My Name too, similar thing. It's just like it sounds a little bit different than what I was expecting from like the pop punk vibe from it. The singing is better, the lyrics are a little bit better. So I was cool with those tracks. And again, I'm not picking the singles on purpose here. My least favorite track, I didn't really have like a super standout. I really don't like this song. I think just because the record felt very long to me, that by the end I was really like, I'm done. Like I've heard this. I've heard what you're going to say. I don't think there's more here. I really want to skip to something else. The story so far, the last track was fine. I didn't really mind it, but I think I was just kind of burned out on the album by the point
especially
I got there.
That's like the longest song on there. And you're just like, wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
So I think longer records like this and like it just burns you out by the time you're like, you've done pretty much what you needed to do already. You don't need this many songs. I will add that when it comes to the singles, My Friend's Over You, I'm getting a little tired of it. We hear it a lot. I'm getting a little bit tired of it. I think Head On Collision, I was tired of, but since listening to this to review it here, I've had it kind of stuck in my head and I'm like, it's actually not that bad.
It's resetting it.
It's resetting it. Yeah. So my Head On Collision was never one of my favorites. I always have said like, oh, let me like listen to this and try to like, revive my appreciation for Newfound Glory. And sometimes it works. And like right now it's working where I'm singing it to myself when we're not, listening to something else. But I'm not like super into the singles on this record anymore. I think that they've been played a lot. There's only 2 of them. So it's like, you only had those like 2 high points, quote unquote, that like you would put out to the public and say, hey, check these songs out. I think that that's kind of a telltale sign of this record too. I wouldn't say like I didn't like this record or there was things that I really didn't appreciate about it. I think it's just not for me. I think that the vibe and the sound of it is just not something I tend to go for. It's not part of my normal listening diet. And I think I'm still there. I don't think I'm not coming around to it yet. 20 years down the line, 22 years down the line.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely understand that. I've seen Newfound Glory live, like not at a festival, but like at one of their actual shows a few years ago. I think that was like the first time I even seen them live too. And I had a good time. Like it was a fun show because it is that, again, like that generic traditional pop punk sound that, again, you would say like, here's an alien caveman person. here's pop punk.
Here's that pop punk for you.
Here's that pop punk you've been asking for. I feel like they stuck in that line and that genre and they really flushed it out. Mm. And for the time, great. Love it. Awesome. When we have more of this traditional pop punk sound with newer acts, they're not making full lengths. They're making EPs or they're doing just single releases. And I feel like this should have been in line with that, but that was a trend that wasn't around back then. It was like LPs and that's it, which is fair. Yeah. We get it. And it's very different from 2024. It's from 2002, 2002, if you want to be weird like that. 2002. It's there. It's something you put on if you just want like a fun time or if you're having like a party in the summer with people and you want to put on certain like songs from it that you feel like just get the energy up. Obviously, one of my tops was Understatement. I did like Singled Out. I thought that was just like a fun song. And then My Friends Over You, obviously. I feel like I don't hear My Friends Over You as much in the mainstream anymore as I did a few years ago. So it doesn't really get too tired out for me. Like I'll hear it and I'll be like, oh yeah, that song.
Oh yeah.
Fun. Love it. My other ones, like, I'm kind of similar to you. I didn't have any that like I absolutely like hated. Story So Far, yes. I'm sorry to the band Story So Far. I'm pretty sure this connected with you in some way, but it did not with either of us, it feels.
It's a very good name, and the story so far, the band doesn't sound anything like that.
No,
song.
It does not. No, very different vibes.
I do kind of like the story so far, the band.
Some positives came out of this.
Yeah,
the other ones I was just kind of like, okay, it was sort of belated and sunny, and like it just didn't stick out to me. Didn't really do much. I think Newfound Glory as a whole in their discography hasn't really like wavered too much away from this sound. They've stayed very consistent. So if you're somebody who gets upset when bands change their sound, don't worry. Newfound Glory has never done that. So if you want a band that has always stayed in their lane, listen to Newfound Glory. And that's not a diss because like they do it well. Hey. And they know what they can grow within.
Well, that's what we thought about Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones. But there are other people who also listen to Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones, and they had an opinion about it. So I looked up reviews on Amazon. Lizzie looked up reviews on websites by critics. And let's get some other people's voices in here. Let's let them have a say. Let's let them try to convince us that we were wrong or we were right. This is an anonymous review.
Oh.
It is 5 stars. The title of it is Smiley Face. This was written on February 5th, 2020. I used to have this CD and it was stolen. That's the end of that review.
Wait, really?
Here is a review from 2002, written by Taylor, 5 stars. Newfound Glory still drives us with sticks and stones. What is this crap? That was my response on my first listen through of NFG's latest record, Sticks and Stones.
Shit.
This was not the response I wanted, so I ran it through my car's stereo a second time. Things just started to click. From the first song, Understatement, all the way to the song Belated. I know, I left out the last song for a reason. I realized that this was indeed NFG, just a more defined and matured NFG. They go through all the songs, but I wanted to at least read their review of the story so far because we've talked about it. The lyrics are really good. They are going towards emo, but the rest of the song really needs some work. It's too slow for me, not catchy at all, and the parts that tried to have melody just don't seem to get their act together. Not to mention this song is long, and when something is just drawn out like this, it turns out really bad. More punk, less attempt at emo, grade F.
Damn.
So this person 5 star except for
that
so
one.
far. Yeah. This review is from December 19th, 2002, anonymously written. 2-star review, not good. A suggestion. Overall, this album is not good. At times, I wonder if several parts of this album are fully synthesized to make a Britney mix with pop punk, creating what the major labels call punk rock legends. However, in reality, Newfound Glory saw Blink and decided they wanted another slice, but this time they wanted screaming 12-year-old girls and lots of interviews to go with it. Why did NFG want this? Well, because they're greedy losers out of Florida who decided that there was no sweat in flunking out of school because daddy can buy a nice record deal with MCA as a stocking stuffer. Have you ever noticed that all the punk bands that have made it big on MTV the past 2 years have come from disgustingly rich families that can get whatever they please at the snap of a finger? And if they don't get it, they'll sue? Well, it's no coincidence. Did you know that Mark of Blink-182 came from an extremely wealthy father in Washington, D.C.? Did you know that Mark got his first bass and amp, which happened to be a Fender, big surprise, from helping his father paint a wall? And as soon as he learned how to play a few easy songs, yes, Blink has the easiest songs on earth to play. He got a record deal with Kung Fu. Of course, that wasn't enough. And Mark wanted grilled cheese. And daddy doesn't want his spoiled little crybaby to cry. So before you know it, Carson Daly, MCA, prepubescent girls, skater prep posers running around preaching about how Tom is the best punk guitarist ever, knowing nothing of actual punk rock in reality. There are some bands that don't need MCA and lots of money to be a good new school pop punk emo band. Alkaline Trio came with an original sound and goal to make good music, not to be on the MTV Music Awards. And even though they are now doing quite well, they started off in a garage label called Asian Man and need not to constantly change their sound to fit popular trends. Green Day, poor, no car, but somehow landed on a major label without ripping off a trendy band. Cough, Newfound Glory, cough. There are a couple likable songs by Newfound Glory, but nothing new. And I found nothing that sounds real or doesn't sound like a woman singing Blink-182 song. There is nothing glorious about their horribly overproduced, neat little sound effects don't impress me. Sorry.
I think this person is just upset they never made it.
Oh, 100%.
This person, oh my God, this person is like, they are probably still a jaded punk in 2024. Like, they will look up like Newfound Glory now and be like, "Can you please fucking posers, man?"
Oh, they're not going to When We Were Young.
No,
they're not making it to When We Were Young Fest.
Jesus,
I know that was wild.
I like how they just rag on Blink-182 for the majority of it too.
Fuck Mark. Fuck Tom.
What if this person is like a secret like enemy of Mark Hoppus?
Apparently,
Mark Hoppus, do you know this insane man?
Tom wrote this while he was doing boxcar racing. All right, that is the Amazon reviews. Lizzie, why don't you tell us some Critic thoughts and opinions about Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones?
Damn, would I ever? From NME, posted in 2005 by Tracy Bracken. Complain that this dumbass Coral Springs quartet are one-dimensional is like moaning that EastEnders isn't realistic. For furrowed brows and creeping existential dreads, stick with Radiohead. Yes, Newfound Glory aren't as rude as Blink, whose Mark Hoppus guests here, deranged as Weezer, or wayward as the Get Up Kids. but they deserve to be lauded for reasons other than the fact that their bassist Crazy Ian's always pulling stupid faces. Pity poor singer Jordan Pundit, for example, whose lyrics would have been dismissed by Ian Curtis as being a bit, depressing. No matter how happy you are, you'll always want more. He wails on something I call personality, like bummer dude. So with endless chainsaw wedgies, snot-colored hair, and sugar rush guitars as comfort, he'll soon get over it.
Wow.
That's a 2 out of 5.
Bummer, buddy.
Bummer, buddy. Bummer, dude.
Bummer, dude. Oh, dude, that sucks, bro.
Anyway, here's Rolling Stones by Peter Relic. 2 stars out of 5. Pundit's lyrics, always delivered from the top of his snot-packed sinus cavity, focus on pretty much the same stuff as he did on the first 2 New Found Glory albums, Girl Woes and Crumbling Friendships. And his band's cheery pop-punk confections still seem like power ballads with an orange dye job. It doesn't help that New Found Glory are often indistinguishable from their Warped Tour brethren. The album gets some much-needed adventureness with the loss of a loved one theme in Sunny and an electro intro into the Daft Punk of Singled Out. Beyond that, Sticks and Stones is just a generic kitty fodder. These were really rough.
Yeah. I mean, this was at a time when obviously these albums have had staying power. So there's no
doubt about that.
There's no doubt about the staying power.
And I mean, the band as a whole, too, has had staying power.
So, like, these reviews came out at a time when a lot of the stuff was first popping off. And obviously, these are reviewing it as a standalone thing and not with the staying power, which we're trying to do here, too, I think.
Right.
We're not trying to be, like, nostalgia goggles on everything. It's hard not to sometimes. But
well, yeah, there's some ones that, like, obviously, if we grew up listening to it, we're going to be like, oh, my God, yeah, I really like this one. Yeah.
Well, that's what we thought about the record. That's what other people thought about the record. But the question that we have to ask now is, should you see New Found Glory Sticks and Stones at When We Were Young Fest 2024? And I'm going to say I will probably skip it because there are not a ton of songs in it that really are going to pull me back. And knowing that I'm never going to go see New Found Glory and not hear My Friends Over You and very likely head on collision at those shows, I feel like I can skip seeing the album play where those are really the 2 songs that like you need to see.
Yeah.
There are other good ones on there, but I'm not attached to them in any sort of way where I feel I'm going to go spend my time and watch a full playthrough of these songs because I'm connected to them in any way or attached to them. It's like, no, they're good. I enjoy them, but I'm not probably going to throw this record on again. This was not a record that I got into back in the day, and it's probably not a record that I'm going to stick with now either.
Yeah, I would definitely skip it for myself. I've seen them live. They're fun, but there's just nothing here that like pulls me in. Like, I mean, there's going to be people who absolutely love New Found Glory. Good for you. I love that for you.
Yeah.
But this isn't one that I would really go out of my way for at all unless I'm like, here's my break in the day and I'm going to eat some tacos in the field. And oh, look, New Found Glory is playing My Friends Over You. I'll sit here and watch it and have a good time.
So that's what we think. Were we right? Were we wrong? Is this the story so far? Make sure that you are subscribed and make sure to let us know in the comments down there. You scroll down, you write a little comment, you say whether we're right, whether we're wrong. And we'd love to see you on the next album that we review. And we'll be at the festival. So, maybe you're going to go too and you have a lot of opinions. This is the place. This is the time.
Yeah.
Write it all down
Tell it to
below.
Brian's face.
Tell it to my face. My Friends Over You. That's our review. Until the next time, New Found Glory, Sticks and Stones, When We Were Young 2024. We'll see you there.